So, good afternoon, everybody. It's a bit of a challenge to talk about a successful rental company for a manufacturer that is providing and trying to sell product to a rental company. Not the idea to try to give lesson, and also the second challenge that Murray put in front of me is talking after Mr. Kanamoto, Mr. Kevin Appleton, Mr. Peter Schrader, or Mr. Will Plummer from United. They know much more than me about successful and success for rental company. But I will try to fill some of the gap they leave in the various elements they present. And the way I would like to start this presentation is clearly to talk about the world. You know, the current world is changing, and is changing very fast. Of course, you could look at it on the political way. You know, we managed to have a young French president, unexpected and a big change. You have an unpredictable US president, maybe less of a change, but still another one. And we even had UK leaving EU through the Brexit a few months ago, which also is showing some big change in the world. But I will not talk very long about politics. The second big change has also been mentioned. It's all what has to do with the new technology, Internet of Things, big data, and also 3D printing. I may come back a bit on that later. But it's also true that all these elements are putting a lot of pressure and a lot of change on the way we work. But the biggest change I wanted to talk to you today is about the fact that the ownership is an old-fashioned value. And as that also has been mentioned one or twice, today the people are not buying anymore. They are using, they are paying for the use, and therefore the rental business has a bright future. But to be successful, you cannot only transfer the costs you don't want to bear to the rental company. You definitely have to work between rental companies and manufacturer how to manage the pressure you get from the customer. And that will be one of the two parts of my presentation. How can we work together to face this big change in the world, this condition of a bright future, to still make money? So, a few words about the Chinese market. That also was mentioned. Rental business is a cyclical business. Well, honestly, not yet for China. The rental market in China started about 10 years ago, at least when we talk about platform. It has been multiplied by 4 in terms of units available between 2014 and 2017. You have seen some figure before. Our best estimate is that the AWP Chinese market will be around 60,000 by the end of this year. So it's an early stage of development. It's a very fast growth, as we very often experience in emerging markets. To tell you the truth, the world is changing, but there is a few things that are not changing in the rental business. At the very beginning, there is no market. There is a very few machines available. There is a very few offer for rental. The rental rates are very high. It's easy to buy machine. The payback is less than 2 years. When you're lucky, less than a year. Financing is not an issue. Volume neither, because you have a small market and small player. But at least it's easy to deal with. And as soon as the market spread around, as soon as you start seeing some developments, well, you face new issues. The first one is how you deal with the market. And normally what we have experienced and what we see from AWP market is that basically it's the demand that is driving the market. People start to be educated to AWP. There is more and more demand, and the demand is going through rental company. They are requested to provide more and more machines. And The customer, they just want machine. They don't know exactly what they're looking for. They just know they want to work at heights. They want to work in safer condition. And basically, education constraints are very limited. And if you are not careful, the market is turning into a pretty competitive market. How can I call that? Probably a commodity approach. So basically, I want 8-meter scissors, whatever the brand, whatever the condition, looking only at one thing, which is price. So at one stage of the market, the volume is there, the price pressure is pretty strong, and there is a simple way, which is fight on price, grow the volume, and that's it. But I have to tell you one thing as manufacturer, we cannot drive the price of the machine down as fast as you can drive the rental rates down. So we figure out with some of our good customers if there is a way out of this approach. This is a moment on the emerging market you always go through. It's easy to get machine, the demand is there, and you believe as long as I have growth, I can cut the rates and I will survive. But this approach is honestly not sustainable on the long run. Kevin Appleton mentioned it very clearly. If you do not have a long-term approach on rental and on rental of AWP, there is basically no bright future. You will just fight for the short term. There is always someone that will undercut your rate. And so it's very difficult to know how you deal with that if you're on your own. Normally, what you see in that moment is pretty strong demand for some key subjects. I would say the first one is financing. The repayment of the machine is clearly above 2 years, 3, 4, and the cash flow of the company cannot be strong enough to allow the rental company to buy all what they need. So pressure on price, strong demand on financing, and all kind of financing. So of course leasing, but you also see some demand on the payment terms. And therefore it's one occasion to remind you that asking crazy payment terms to a supplier is very easy, but when you spread that around to the market, you give a very strong advantage to newcomer. Because an existing rental company with a decent balance sheet can find ways to grow his business without silly payment terms or silly financing conditions. It's not the case for a newcomer. So if you educate the market through easy money and long-term payment term, you make the access to the market easier to the newcomer. So one of the subjects is to resist on this one. The second subject is, of course, managing the people. In those, that has been mentioned before, but in those crazy growing periods, getting the right people, getting the right technician, getting the right organization to be able to satisfy the customer is a second big challenge. And to deal with this challenge, organization, human resource departments become a very important subject. And the third one, which is the one I would like to develop a little bit in the second part of my presentation, is all the work that can be done between a rental company and manufacturer to try to educate the market through innovation, through close relationship, through working together. When you pass this approach of volume of commodity product, you find out that in AWP market there is a lot of different demand, a lot of constraints on the job site, and finally many ways to address it. The easiest way is to provide a lot of product, easy, cheap, and simple, but there is other way through. So the way we look at it at Haulotte is try to get closer to the end user needs, try to understand what they really want, what is their specific requirement, what is the kind of product they're looking for, and try to escape from this commodity approach to build an enhanced future added value solution for the end customer. And there is a strong connection with what I said before. Finally, you're not only offering a product, even if it's for 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year. You try to find out what kind of solution your customers are looking for. And to achieve that, one of the key challenges, the way we see it, is to be able to write communication channel with our customer. Or are they willing to talk to us? Are they willing to talk to us? Are they willing to share their customer constraints? It's not so easy. You know, you have your customer, a rental company has his customer, gets a lot of information from his customer and strongly believe this is part of his business, this is part of his knowledge. And to share that information with a third party, even a strong partner, even a nice supplier of AWP like us, is a tricky question. What kind of information am I willing to share? Is it the right moment to do it? Will I not put my company in a weak situation? Will this manufacturer share that information with my competition? So you need to build a relationship, you need to build the confidence so that everybody around the table is comfortable that we are just trying to build together a brighter future for our common business. And as you have seen number, it's true in China, but it's true in many other countries, the future can be nice. So building it together, exchanging information is something very important. Something very important, but not so easy. Just to give another example, what about, you talk about big data. It's easy to collect information. Coming from a machine, you put a few sensors, but the question is, who owns that information? Is it the manufacturer, who really needs all those information to do better product, to imagine the long-term cost of the product, evaluate the total cost of ownership, or is it the rental company who owns the machine and who first rank collect those information? First subject, who is in the best position to implement those information? You know, I had a lot of discussion about all this new technology, all this new subject. Tomorrow, data will not be a subject. Everybody around the world will have plenty of data. The only question that we are facing is who is able to process them. Who is able to process them to make your business better tomorrow than yesterday? So the challenge is not to collect a lot of data. The challenge is to process those information. And we find a place where I'm sure manufacturer and rental company can work together. Don't leave that big gold mine to a third party that you will rely on. We are on the same market. Our future is very strongly connected. And if we have a chance to build something better, it's working together. So our long-term strategy to face the future of the rental business and of the AWP development is to create this strong connection between rental company and manufacturer to be able to exchange, process all the information we have and we will collect. And that's a key subject. And that's a key subject because we have some quite interesting challenge ahead of us. So, don't worry more, it's not a lot of promotion, even if there is a few options that are on that slide. The subject is really to try to share with you some of the key challenges I see coming on the AWP. As I mentioned before, better understand the customer needs, try to process all those information, the one we have, the one we will have, to build better machine is very important. So when you talk about platform, it's very simple. Safety as a must, productivity, efficiency as a promise. That's pretty basic. A platform, what is a AWP? What is an aerial work platform? It's a mobile basket that is taking you a certain distance in height with a certain outreach. So to describe the product, it's about 3 numbers: outreach, maximum height, and weight you can put in the basket. And the condition behind that is to be sure you can work in safe condition. So where is the challenge? 3 numbers and a basic safety concern. Well, the challenge is somewhere else. How do you achieve this in a changing environment? First subject, safety. Second subject, very important, environment. You know, I just look in the newspaper that during his speech, the new re-elected Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, make a strong comment about environment. And he said something like, lucid water and some nice mountain, green mountain, has as much value as gold and silver. So would you have guessed that this environment preoccupation will be that strong in a leadership speech, in a leader speech in China this year? You see that preoccupation also is very strong. And the third subject, when you look at the machine, except the main characteristic I described, is maintenance. You get to that question of people, you get to that question of volume, you get to that question of machine being everywhere, more and more used with any kind of people around. So how do you make your machine easy to maintain? How do you make that anyone in front of a machine is able to find out what's wrong? So that your time of reaction, that the parts you will provide, that the advice you will give is always accurate. Rental company, that was very well explained before. How are they making money? Improving utilization time, reducing downtime, making sure that the assets they pay for, that the customer, their customer is not more willing to pay, is used most of the time. With 100% utilization, you make money even with reasonably low rental rate. When your utilization drops to 50%, with the same rental rates, you lose money, and then nobody will invest in the product. So how can we help the customer, or customer, the rental company, to have the lower downtime, the best utilization time possible? So that's all the small tools and products I would like to briefly comment and present to show you some of the results of this approach, of this way of working at Haulotte. The idea is to see what's going on the market, to discuss with all our customers to see what are the real difficulties. The first one, we find out when we solve most of the problem with the machine that one of the major accident subject was people crash in the basket. They were moving in a 3D, not always looking behind, not always seeing bars in that kind of narrow environments, and get, as you can see on the image, get crashed on the machine, and the time they realize it's too late. They were stuck on the control box, cannot move back, and when you're 15 or even 10 meters up in the air, time is of essence, and you get more and more accidents. So we create a working group with some of our customers, try to find out something that is avoiding that, so that we'll stop the machine before it's too late. But believe me, that looks very simple. But when you bring something in a platform basket, you bring weight at the wrong place. You bring additional tools that may fall, that may default, that may be faulty. So in front of this preoccupation of safety, which is key, you know, everywhere in Haulotte it's safety, 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 safety first. You also have to deal with their constraints. If our machine can carry less weight, if there is more possible of default, if there is things that are not working, well, okay, we deal with one problem, but we create others. So all the subject was to find something that is fully integrated in the platform, in the basket, not adding significant weight, and not creating any additional default. So it took us a few years, and I think currently we're offering a kit that is really dealing with all those three subjects. The second subject has to do with environment. Once again, everybody around in this room and even around this show knows that environment is a long-term issue for the planet. So once again, one of the subjects you heard is, okay, get rid of the diesel, do everything electric, no emission, that's safe. Well, there is just one small issue. there is not enough of lithium or a few other products on Earth to put batteries on every car that is moving in the world today. So if you believe that you can solve the environment problem just with electric machine, whatever it's car or platform or whatever, it's a dream. And it's a dream that may be satisfied with new technology in whatever years, I don't know. But with the existing one, you have to find something else. And the best way is to think about what you have and just try to reduce the emission of what you have. And that's where, coming from the car industry, we implement on our machine the stop emission system. When the machine is up in the air and the guy is working, there is no movement, there is no energy needed, so automatically cut the engine. You reduce your emission. Pretty simple, with a few subjects to deal with. If the engine is cut, how do you ensure the safety? How do you ensure that all the systems still operational and that all the tools you put on the machine will work? Same global preoccupation, reasonably simple idea with a detailed implementation that is not so easy. People are talking about environment, people are talking about cars, and we're currently fighting about diesel. But do everybody knows that there is 100 more difference between an old diesel car and a new diesel car than between a new diesel car and an electric machine? So the first subject, of course, we have to work for the future. We work for electric. We try to develop electric to deal with that. But try to reduce the production of pollution, of low particle and all that on existing solution is also a great way to reduce and to protect the environment. So we have to work long term and we have to work short term. And dealing with that is a strong preoccupation we have. And also this small solution behind the small promotion, sorry Murray, is clearly to say we have an environmental preoccupation, but not looking 20 years in the future because our clients will not wait 20 years, but make sure we contribute short term to an improvement on that subject. Would like also to come to safety. And on this one, well, when you talk about safety on the platform, basically is how do you avoid, I mentioned crashing on the basket, how do you mention the machine to tilt over or things like that. But you find out discussing with our customer that one of the trickiest situation and one of the unpleasant situation is just loading a machine on the truck. And just take a video, if you have time, to look at what is currently doing a driver on the machine or on the truck to load the machine on the truck. And you will see that they are taking crazy risks. So we work on everything's possible to make it easier with some lighting system, with some automatic approach, so that it will make this business easier. And in the near future, we strongly believe that you will be able to do that remotely, sitting nearby your machine and having with a small remote the machine going straight, almost automatically on the truck. Believe me, compare with what you're doing today, and you will see big difference. Same idea, how we can contribute to safety of the product on the short term. How can we give to our customer, outside of just cutting the price, some argument, some explanation why they are offering a better product, a better solution with our product than with the old ones. The last one I wanted to mention is about maintenance. You maybe have been in front of a machine, try to find out what's wrong. Usually you get either no information, and you have just to call someone that will plug something in the machine, look around, and finally tell you, I found out. Or when you were lucky, you had a small screen providing nice error code. So you have error 21A2. If you're not an expert of the subject, if you didn't read the 25 or 250 manual page, this information has not a great value to you. So same idea, exchanging with customer, exchanging with technicians of our customer, going on job site to understand what is happening on the machine when it's faulty, when it's not working, whatever the reason. What is the condition of use? What is the situation we were dealing with? And we find out that this first contact with the machine, this interface, can get pretty easily a lot of technology that currently exists that will make this interface very easy. That can show in French, in English, in Chinese, in any language, with simple words what is not working. You have sensor everywhere, you have all the information. It's just a question of translating that information into an accessible information for anyone on the job site. And that's what we try to achieve, which is basically helping the people in front of the machine either to fix it when the information is very simple, or to be able to provide a simple description to a hotline, so to be sure that if needed, when someone is coming with the right parts, knowing what is the right default, fixing it in a very short period of time, therefore reducing downtime, therefore making your life easier. Because if you don't want to fight on price, if you don't want to go for the commoditization process, which we know is driving our business nowhere, you have to come with ideas that will enhance our customer to create value for them and for us around the product. Value creation, solution provider, that's some of the key words we're working on. We're working on with all of you. So, of course, we get a bit more pressure coming from mature market like Europe or US than we currently get from Asia or China on this subject, but we try to sell the same machine all around the world. We'll be very happy to promote all that in China and all in Asia, because that's where we believe is the future. The market is cyclical, even if you didn't enter the first cycle, and believe me, when you know the first cycle, you will notice it. But whatever the cycle, whatever the moment you are in, working medium term with your customer to find the best possible solution for them to offer the right service and the right support to their customer is basically our concern and our strategy to make sure this business has a long-term future. So, more generally speaking, fleet management, making sure that you know where the machine is. I mentioned the big datas. Is a rental company willing to share with me permanently where the machine is located? Yes or no? The answer is not mine. I know I can do a much better business if we are able to do that information, to share that information. If I received automatically some information about the predictive maintenance that has not been done, if I am able to get some information to say, well, this part can be faulty or is becoming weak, very easy for a rental company during in between two periods of rental, when they do the pre-delivery control, to change a small part. The machine is in the yard, technician is around. It's normally pretty easy. Think about the cost of doing that when the machine is on the job site with a failure, with a customer complaining because it's not working. So how can we build this trusty confidence relationship so that we share enough information so that we are in a full position to help you to optimize your utilization rate? Second subject, same with this idea of cooperation, is to reduce time to market. How can we work early enough so that we identified your difficulties, so that we can start working on them, and you're not waiting 2 years before the machine are coming on the market, before the option will be built in your machine or is made available for you? How can we get this small sign early enough so that we work on the right subject? Once again, the key is cooperation. Don't believe we can build a bright future on AWP market without a strong cooperation between rental companies and manufacturer. The idea of co-designing solution is very important. And therefore, but that's I think is pretty transparent with all what I said so far, data management, EDI, sharing all this information we will collect is a key. If we are able to do that, I think we will be successful, you will be successful on a short-term period of time. That's our challenge, and that's probably for me one of the key subjects that this market is having in front of him. Because, as I mentioned as an introduction, and I see a Peter there, we have a long-term and historical relationship, there is information you're not willing to share with anyone. And that's normal. That's your business. That's where you believe the value is. So which part you are trusting us enough, despite that reluctancy to share, because we all understand this is the best way for our common future. And with that information, of course, you see, but that has been explained, and I will not develop very long on that, is of course we are less and less selling a product, we are selling a solution. We maybe in the future will be able to sell even to rental company hours of working machine and no more to sell a machine. Whatever the hours, if you know how much costs an hour of machine, if you have a really good view on the total cost of ownership, it's for sure helping your business, it's for sure helping your ability to build your rates, to understand better what is your real cost, or will be your future cost, resale value, financing, maintenance, all these elements are key subjects for all rental customer, and we will work hard on that. So, that is the additional or small subject that I just mentioned, total cost of ownership. Am I able to get a commitment for you on that? Are you interested in that kind of question? On those questions, the subject is still open. Where is the risk? Who is bearing some of the risk? Who is getting paid for that risk? We know, and that's clear for the market, that today our customers are not anymore willing to bear, I mean not the rental, the final user, are not willing to bear the risk of ownership of the machine. They want to pay for the time they use, and they are willing to pay a premium for that as small as possible. So in front of that demand that is on the market, that is the long-term demand that will increase and increase, that's part for me of a very clear situation that ownership, as I mentioned in introduction, is a past value. We have to find a way of good cooperation, of working together to make sure that we allocate the right risk at the right place so that we are all able to deal with. So once again, a very simple approach. I identify a risk, I find someone I can transfer the risk to, and I'm making sure I'm not paying for that risk that I transfer. That's very convenient on the short term, but that's not creating any future because no one is able to carry a risk for you on the long term without any form of reward. So sharing information, finding the right way to finance the equipment. As I say, it could be financing through hourly availability. All the service maintenance and resale value are some of the key subjects we have to address with you to make sure you can do properly your business. I try to describe, seen from a manufacturer point of view, some of the conditions of future success. Of course, I try to be clear there is two ways. One is just to try to bring as simple, as cheap machine as possible, drop a huge quantity on job site, and wait and hope it will be enough. You know, I have discussed with a customer. Every time he was renting one machine, he didn't make a lot of investment on maintenance. He was not sure the machine will work for the whole job site. So he had a simple approach. If you rent one, I deliver two. And he said, with two machines for one, I'm sure the customer is satisfied. It worked 6 months. And you know why? Because as soon as the customer realized that when they rent one, they get two, they start renting half of what they needed. Yeah. So once again, working with the customer, being close to the customer, is the only solution for a bright and a dynamic future for the AWP. And as a final conclusion, be sure that Haulotte will be there for you to build that future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alexander. That was a very thoughtful contribution. Really interesting thoughts about the relationships between rental companies and manufacturers. Can I just ask you one thing? You talked about why would a rental company share data with a third party when you can share the data with the equipment manufacturer. If you're a rental company and you have multiple brands in your fleet, then you can understand the logic of having a third party which can cover all the equipment. How would you answer that argument?
Well, I have a very simple answer. Just buy Haulotte machine and that will be easy to deal with. But the reality is, as always, a bit different. And I think it's all work, even if we are not providing the complete range, or if, which I fully understand, you a rental company like to have 2 or 3 suppliers. That's life.
Or earth-moving equipment, something completely different.
Exactly. But to prepare the future, whatever the number of suppliers you have, you need to have some of the key suppliers, some of the people you trust a bit more than the other, and you are able to build that. And that's our target, to be one of those. After a period of time, when you get the right idea, when you build the right solution, well, it's on the market. It will be copied one day. So as long as you keep working on that, you'll always be ahead of competition. But do not believe you will keep your advantage for 20 years. If you keep it for 2 or 3 years, as soon as it's on the market, it's available for everybody. Then it's just a question of time for the competition, for the other player to bring it on board of machine, to bring it on board of their fleet. Well, just for me, a good business, if you're every time 2 to 3 years in advance of the average of the market, believe me, that's way enough to build a bright future.
Do we have any questions from the floor? I have another question. In some markets, you have invested in rental. You've bought or established rental companies to help develop a new market. Maybe in Argentina is an example.
Yep.
But you've chosen not to do that in China. Can you explain your logic for that decision?
Well, the logic is we are an AWP manufacturer, and our only target is to grow every possible market. So when we decide or we look at a market, we try to evaluate what is available and what are the best way to grow the market. In any country where there is a rental offer or we see a rental offer is developing, there is no reason for us to invest money in rental. So for instance, when we stepped into Brazil, there were a long history of rental business through power generation. So the subject was not to create any kind of rental or to educate the country to rental. It was just to convince some of the existing rental companies that there is an additional product that they will build on their range. And so we try to have this analysis everywhere. If there is an offer, if we find the right partner, well, we go for it. No reason and no interest to do it. Our business, as I try to present, is to build and manufacture aerial work platform, try to design them the smartest ways possible to fulfill your current and future need. But we find a few countries where the market is too narrow, the distribution or the rental is very concentrated and very linked to one supplier, for instance, and the only way to step in is to do like the rest of the market. That's why we have a small rental company today in China, in Chile and Argentina, to mention the 2 major countries we're in. And that's why there were no need to develop any kind of rental in China. The offer is there, and all work here through the management team we have here, Harry, Damien, that are here, is just to convince those rental companies to buy some of our machines. Some of them are produced here in China, and also to look at the market the way we try to look at it, to build this nice future.